Time for another riveting edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. With you as always, Jeff Chadiha, NFL Network, Sam McDowell, Kansas City Star. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about which player from each one of the four remaining teams we would want. We'll do a draft style, so we'll give you a few players that could be helping the Kansas City Chiefs. I think kind of a fun exercise to show you what they have that the Chiefs don't have, why they're there and the Chiefs aren't. Are the Broncos set to rule the AFC West? What about the Pats? Are they set to rule the entire AFC? Terry Pegula sticks his foot in his mouth with the Buffalo Bills. What's their future? Ravens have a new coach. Are they a threat to the AFC? Mike McDaniel dancing around, talking to everybody. We'll see where that lands with him. Is it with the Chargers? How many of our 15 biggest reasons that the Chiefs missed the playoffs can Bieniemy personally fix? We'll get our predictions on the game. That's all coming up right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on the Red, Gold, and Bold. And let's start with a little draft. We'll do it fairly quick, but we're basically going to take a look at the four teams that are left playing here in the playoffs and determine what player, really what three players, because we're each going to pick one, would help the Kansas City Chiefs the most. Let's start in division. Jeff, let's start with the Denver Broncos. They're at home, the one seed in the AFC. Got a pretty good idea where you're going with the number one pick on the Denver Broncos, but who would it be for you?
Do you? Really? Okay. Because I have three options here.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going with the most accomplished, Patrick Surtain, the second at corner. If you give me a corner who can win Defensive Player of the Year, I will take that all day long. I think there's only four guys in the history of the league who've done it. And I take him because I think about that Chiefs defense when they have a Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie in the same secondary and what they could do to teams. It allowed for a more effective pass rush, allowed for more effective blitz packages. And I think that there aren't many corners who I would say are in the category of Patrick Surtain, but I also love his cost right now. His contract is worth an average of $24 million a year, and most guys who are in his category are making north of $30 million a year. So I think you get a bargain and you get a phenomenal player.
Cap conscious is Jeff, Sam, on his. He's always looking to save Clark Hunt and the Hunt family a buck. You got to like that. He's a favorite son when it comes to ownership. How about you, Sam? Where are you going?
Yeah, I didn't think the Broncos was quite so obvious because I think they have exactly three guys that could most help the Chiefs. So with Surtain off the board, I will pick Garrett Bowles. I think Josh Simmons was a good draft pick for the Chiefs, but he played in less than half the games this year. Bowles allowed 0 sacks this year. He's the top-rated left tackle in the game, and I think so much of what the Broncos do, and while all the conversation is on Bo Nix, just watch how much time he has in the pocket to throw the ball. And a major part of that is because left tackle's just on lockdown without help.
I get my number one pick. Like, we're not fixing the pass rush. Everybody's got him taking defensive end, and no one's going in the draft. Everyone's got him taking defensive end, and no one's going Nick Bonito here. You're going to leave that for me? Like, that's a no-brainer for me, he's number one on this list with the bullet. I like what you're saying about Bowles. I wasn't sure everybody else would have him on the list because you're like, well, we got Josh Simmons, so that's we don't need a left tackle. I always want a great left tackle. I'll put Simmons over on the right side, figure it out. So I do appreciate that Bowles is on the list. But to me, the biggest need for this team is the edge, and Nick Bonito's there. I'm taking Nick Bonito. I mean, why not Nick Bonito at the top of the list?
Best player available.
He's the defensive player of the year. Once he wins that award, he can be number one on my list. He's tough. I think he's second. Yeah.
If you're starting a team from complete scratch, there's no doubt that Surtain and Bowles are going off the board before Bonito is.
Yeah.
When you're
are we factoring in age on Bowles?
Well, I think you'd factor in age on what you think they're going to be in the immediacy, but like left tackles aren't like done at 32. How old is Bowles?
I think he's 34. But
is he that old?
I don't think so.
No, I think
he's 33.
33. Split the difference. Yeah, 30. He'll be 34 before he starts next year, though.
Look, I said I think the Broncos one was tough because there's three good players. There's three obvious players who would make a significant impact on the team.
I wouldn't take this guy, but I'll throw Hufunga's name out there. I'm a huge fan of him and what he brings at the safety position. So that's a name that I like, but would not crack this top three. I agree with that. Sam, you get the honors then on the New England Patriots. Where are you taking? Where do you draft it off the New England Patriots for the Chiefs?
Man, my takeaway from the Patriots is there's not a lot. There's not that same elite talent list, but I'll go Christian Gonzalez at cornerback. And the reason being is I think they beat the Chargers in the opener if they have Christian Gonzalez. And I wonder how different the season is if they win that opener because the Chargers just picked on Shamari Connor in the slot. And if you could play Trent McDuffie in the slot in that opening game, and because you've got Christian Gonzalez on the outside, I mean, I remember that I had looked up after that Connor game because I'd written something about how the fact they have to get him out of the slot and play him in a different position, that he had allowed the 5th highest EPA of any player in football in week 1. And I think he was really high in, I think it was week 3 or something as well. So I just think if you're able to play Trent McDuffie as a slot cornerback, that the season could have looked different.
All right. I like that. That was, to me, the obvious number one. He's been fantastic. He's been, I think, in the playoffs, he's allowed, I can't remember if it's a 42 passer rating and only 33% completions. I think he's been otherworldly. So to me, he was the obvious number one. The number two gets a lot harder, in my opinion, as to where you want to go. But I'm going to go with youth and need for the Kansas City Chiefs. They need a running back. There's a couple of good ones for the Patriots, but I'm going to take the kid with the upside, and I think the guy that fits what the Chiefs do more, I'm going to take Travion Henderson for the New England Patriots, and I'm going to solve the running back dilemma. Catches the ball out of the backfield. He looks like more the Andy Reid type of back, although I will tell you that Ramondre Stevenson does a really nice job catching the football out of the backfield as well, so I don't think you can go wrong. I think either one of these guys would be a significant upgrade off what the Chiefs have at running back, but the big play ability, talked about, we'll get into lack of big plays later on. I'm taking Travion Henderson.
I don't disagree, but he is a backup player.
I know. I think he's. I think he
ran for 900 yards. He was the Chiefs' leading rusher.
Listen. I think Travion Henderson. I think because they have Ramondre Stevenson, but I think it speaks to how much more emphasis Mike Vrabel put on the running game than the Chiefs did. He already had a good back, and Ramondre Stevenson tends to get hurt. Anyone who's ever had a Patriot running back knows you're watching every week. Is this guy going to go? Is he going to go? But I think Henderson's the home run threat that the Chiefs need. So I'm taking Travion Henderson. Jeff, where are you going?
Yeah, I wanted him too. He had 4 runs over 50 yards this year, which felt like a rookie record. And so what the Chiefs have? 3 runs of 20 yards.
Pacheco's long. They had 1 run above 20.
One run above 20. Yeah.
Kareem Hunt had 1. I think Pacheco's longest run was 20, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wanted him badly, but I'm going to take Milton Williams, a guy the Chiefs saw with the Philadelphia Eagles last year. I know he got banged up and missed some games. I think he played 11, 12 games this year for the Patriots. But when he came back, he's been a wrecking crew, and he is a serious interior pass rushing presence. A lot of people credit what they're doing now defensively to him being back and being healthy. I think if you had him next to Chris Jones all year long instead of Soren's favorite son, Derek Nottie, might have been a different kind of pass rush going there. And so I think Milton Williams has always been an underrated performer. I think he would be a huge boost to this team's defense.
I think that's a great one. I'm looking here. I'm trying to find it real quick, but the Next Gen Stats had the rankings here. There's pressure leaders from the D tackle spot, combination of your top 2 defensive tackles. You want to guess what teams were 1, 2, 3, 4?
I know New England's in there.
Well, I've seen the stat.
I think they're all 4.
Yeah.
I've
Number
seen
1,
it.
Denver Broncos. Number 2, Seattle Seahawks. Number 3, Los Angeles Rams. Number 4, New England Patriots. Seems like that was an important part of the equation for these teams getting to where they are. So I think that's a pretty good pick from you. All right, I'm first up on the Seattle Seahawks. This one is a no-doubter. Jackson Smith.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me the one I don't have to think about, boys. Listen, he's in the argument for best receiver in football right now. I mean, it's not like he's got a Hall of Fame quarterback with him, and he was putting up, otherworldly numbers. This guy is a tremendous wideout. He can play in any of the receiver positions. And I think you give that weapon to Patrick Mahomes, this Chiefs offense. I think they're in the playoffs with just Jackson Smith and Jigba being on this team. I will talk more about the wide receivers being a big part of the problem for the Chiefs, but Jackson Smith and Jigba is fantastic, and he solves a lot of the problems for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Can I throw a stat out there? Because I didn't know who was picking first in the Seahawks, so I think we all had anticipated that. But 614 yards on downfield throws this year. Nobody else had more than 487. He had 78% of the Chiefs total by himself on downfield throws this year.
Yeah. He's a big difference between what you see between him and Xavier Worthy. But Xavier Worthy ran a better 40 times, so got to take him. All right, Jeff, you're up on the Seahawks.
I was tempted to go with DeMarcus Ware. He's had a great season for them as a free agent, but he's
DeMarcus
also
Lawrence, yeah.
DeMarcus Lawrence. Sorry, yeah. DeMarcus Ware would be good too. What the Chiefs got out of their pass rush, but DeMarcus Lawrence would have been the first guy I took. But I went Leonard Williams, who again, interior defensive line, phenomenal versatility, explosive, made All-Pro this year. I think when he went there, people kind of thought, he's an okay player. But I think you think about that pass rush in Seattle, he and Lawrence are 2 big factors in it. I wanted JSN bad, so he's my number 2 guy.
Okay, so DeMarcus Lawrence comes off the board, a guy that's been available about 6 times, it seems like, for the Kansas City Chiefs to get. They've never gone down that road. Where are you, Sam? You get 3rd pick on the Seahawks.
I cannot believe I get this guy 3rd. Devin Witherspoon was the best cornerback in football this year.
Yep.
And I am surprised by the lack of pub that he gets, considering he was a number 5 pick. Surtain had a down year this year. Like I said, this guy was the best cornerback, played the best cornerback in football this year. So to me, it's obvious. And for all the same reasons that I mentioned about Christian Gonzalez, the way he could have helped the Chiefs this year with McDuffie in the slot.
Yeah, we're finding there's no shortage of good players on these teams as we pick them. All right, one more team to draft from. That's the Los Angeles Rams. Jeff, where are you going with the Rams? You got the honors with the first pick.
I'm going to go with a middling talent named Puka Nacua.
System guy. I think he was called on this podcast.
Yeah, I think he could come in and probably use a quarterback to get him going in this league. So I'm going to go with Puka Nacua, has an argument for being the best receiver in football.
Okay,
the numbers he's put up and the things he's done. I think JSN's there, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, but Puka Nacua, what they do with him both, and it's not just catching balls; it's the blocking, it's the jet sweeps. I mean, he's such an all-around talent for them. It's such a nice chess piece for Sean McVay to use. Again, you put a guy like that in this offense, and a 5th-round pick on top of that, you're getting great value. So I think if Puka Nacua was here, maybe things would be different for Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. All right. Where do you go, Sam?
Can I throw out just a couple quick stats about Puka, because it also relates to how much the Chiefs would have needed. He had 27 contested catches this year. The Chiefs as a team had 26. More contested catches than the entire Chiefs team this year. Yeah. Led the NFL in missed tackles, led the NFL in first downs. I mean, he was the best receiver in football. I'll go with Jared Verse second. I think there's a few different ways you could go. Yeah. There's 3 different defensive linemen that you could pick here, but I'm going to go with Jared Verse just because I think the pressure from the edge is what the Chiefs did most. And 10th in pressures this year, top 20 in quick pressures. He was second. He caused 5 turnovers from his pressures this year. Like, that's how significant pressure is. His pressure forced 5 turnovers this year.
Yeah, I listen. You can't argue with that. I am going to stay on the defensive line.
The defensive line is so good. I still actually don't know which one you're picking. You're picking a second defensive line.
I know. I mean, I'm going to go to the edge, and I'm going to go Byron Young. My only hesitation there is like, is this a guy that like I would draft him and give him to Steve Spagnuolo and he wouldn't use him? You know, that's my hesitation. He's not 6'5", so I don't know if he can get on the field for the Chiefs, but he's been outstanding this year. The number 9 edge guy, according to PFF, plays all around. You know, I mean, like when you look at this Rams, and we've talked about it before, Sam, I know you hit on it. We've talked about the Rams drafting approach, but we're not talking about guys that won the top 10 either. We talk about how hard it is to get edge rushers, how hard it is to get pass rushers when you're not picking in the top 10, but the Rams do it. The Rams have done it. That's part of like how they were so top heavy and they spent 1 year down and waved goodbye to Aaron Donald, and they're back and likely to be headed back to the Super Bowl. I mean, I think that's what they did.
I think one of the lessons from the Rams, because we talked about lessons from these teams and we didn't mention it, but when you go through the individual players, it stands out that the Rams don't care if they're good at a position. It doesn't prevent them from continuing to throw resources at that position. They already had a good defensive line. They give Poona Ford $9 million a year, and Poona Ford this year is like 11th among interior linemen and stops this year. I mean, for $9 million, you know,
Yeah.
or as we call it in Kansas City, Christian Fulton money. Like that's a player you could have gotten instead, but you thought, hey, you've got Chris Jones. Well, you could have really stacked that position.
But again, when he get on the field, he's listed at 5'11". I mean,
I think Poona Ford's been one of the most underrated players in football since he came in.
I agree. But that's my point too. Like we've seen some guys be given, and we've seen like, you know, draft picks given to Steve Spagnuolo, and they can't get on the field because they don't seem to fit his type. Right. So, I mean, I do think that's one of the things we've touched on a number of times. We're not breaking new ground here, but personnel and coaching have to be on the same page. That hasn't always been the case. They have no 6th-round pick this year because of the edge they traded for last year, who suddenly, you know, could play for the Patriots, can play for the Eagles, but couldn't play for the Chiefs.
You're saying about O'Shea?
Yeah, Josh Uche. I mean, you know, they got to get on the same page when it comes to what they're doing here with the stuff. So we'll see if they will. All right, there it is. You can see some of the top talent there on the 4 teams that are left. That's why they're still left, and one of the reasons why the Chiefs are not. We'll get into some of the news of the day with what's going on with some of the coaching moves. We'll do that right after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's get into some of the news that's out there. We'll get into some of the coaching moves. First, let's talk about the Denver Broncos. Are they set to rule the AFC West for years to come, Jeff? Is this just a one-off, or have the Broncos now seized control of this division?
I wouldn't say years to come, but I think they're going to be a player for a long time, as long as Sean Payton's there. And you look, whatever you think about Bo Nix, this team is in the AFC Championship game because he was their quarterback. And I just think they've made really smart personnel decisions. And you think about what they went through as far as salary cap hell and letting Russell Wilson walk away from them. They were able to build a strong team, but while dealing with that hanging over their heads. And so I like the way they're constructed. I think they're going to win this week because I think Sean Payton is really good with backup quarterbacks and game planning and play calling. They are ahead of the Chiefs in terms of roster ability, in terms of coaching. And so I don't know how the Chiefs catch that right away and pass them up. I like the Broncos to be in this for a long time, for at least the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, the Broncos the team to beat now, Sam, in your mind, or
Well,
a healthy Chiefs in an offseason with some good picks, the difference?
I think they'll be competitive, but I don't think they're going to be what they were this year. I mean, I think this is one of the most fluky years that I think it was the most fluky year any team had, with the Bears being probably the second on that list. I think it's difficult to give credit to Bo Nix for where the Broncos are now and then think they're going to win the AFC Championship game without him. Like, to me, either Bo Nix is the reason the Broncos are good or he's not. And I don't think he's the reason the Broncos are good. I mean, you look at it, I think I talk about the conditions and circumstances in which to play quarterback in the NFL a lot because I think it was really hard to play quarterback for the Chiefs this year. Those are the best conditions to play quarterback in the NFL. He's got an elite offensive line. I think he's got the best left tackle in the game right now. His receivers, relatedly, had the most separation in the NFL this year. So therefore, he throws the least tight window throws in the NFL, and he's got a great defense. Like, these are dream circumstances to play quarterback in this league. So I'm not on the Bo Nix bandwagon. I mean, the metrics don't love Bo Nix, but Jeff's right about the way they've been incredibly smart about the way they spend their money elsewhere. I mean, look up Benito's salary. He's not getting paid top of the market money. Jeff mentioned Surtain. There's 6 cornerbacks making more than Surtain is already. And I do think they've been smart with how they've built the rest of their team. I'm stealing your thunder here probably, but you think your defense is good, then you go out and get Hufanga anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go out and get Greenlaw anyway. Like, you're just stacking what you think is good. Like, they've been smart about the way they spend their money. I don't see that quitting, and I do think they're a well-coached team. So I think they'll be competitive for the long haul, even if I don't pick them to win the AFC West on a regular basis.
Yeah. Thanks for taking everything, Sam. Off the board. I appreciate that. No, but I think you nailed it because they have the cheap quarterback as well. And they're not just resting on that and splashing money around and overpaying at other spots. They went out and said, okay, we've already got a good defense, but these guys are available. We're going to get Hufanga. I think it was $13 million per. I think 3 for $39. I think is that deal, which is a good, fair deal for him. But they didn't just go, we got to just do whatever. And they didn't say, well, we got to put weapons. We're going to overpay for whatever wideouts out there. They went out and said, these are the best values that are out there, and they fit it in. And so I do think that they should be. I'm higher on Bo Nix than you are, Sam. Than the analytics are. I like him with Sean Payton, an amount to play with a defensive minded coach. I won't like it as much, but I think they're really smart about how they're going about spending their money. I think it was when you have the richest, he's either first or second. I think he's the richest owner now in the NFL. We know he's splashing around. You guys talked about the spread. They're not afraid to spend there in Denver. They're pretty showy in how they do things.
Look at their stadium. I mean, they're paying for the majority of their stadium.
Building a new stadium and going to build it exactly how they want. And they're happy to pick up the check. Well, a lot of times, that you get guys that they just overspend for the biggest name, right? They built a football team. And so I do think the Broncos are the favorite. I'll go ahead and say it. Andy Reid will be 68 years old. Patrick Mahomes is coming off a knee injury. The Chiefs are up against it on the cap. Herbert pisses himself every time he gets to the playoffs. The Raiders are the Raiders. They are the favorite. I don't think anyone in Kansas City wants to hear it. And that may change. Patrick Mahomes is good enough, and Andy Reid has been good enough to flip the script on that come next year. But right now, they're the favorite to rule the AFC West, in my opinion. As long as they're not having to pay Bo Nix top of the food chain money, then I think they are the favorite in the AFC West. How about the Pats? Are they top dog in the AFC, Jeff? If they would walk through the Denver Broncos and onto the Super Bowl, is that now the team to beat with their cheap quarterback and what I think is ultimately going to be a Hall of Fame coach in Mike McDaniel?
I wouldn't say top dog yet, but when you look, we've seen this happen in New England before with a brilliant head coach and a talented young quarterback, and they rode that for a long way. And Drake May hadn't even played that great in the postseason, and they're sitting here in the championship game. And so, to me, what's impressive about Mike Vrabel and what he can do with that team and that quarterback is when things get weird there, he knows how to settle them down. Like those last 2 games he's played, Drake May could have easily lost those games for that team with the way he was dropping the football. He's had like 5 turnovers in the postseason and been sacked 10 times. They have some things they got to figure out along the offensive line. But, Sam mentioned some of the pieces that they put together and the things that are around them. They're very smart. They're building it the way the Patriots built it, by finding veterans who come in and know how to play, finding value. I think a guy like Marcus Jones, who's been there for a while now, is a perfect example of what the Patriots are. A guy who makes plays as a nickel guy, who returns punts for touchdowns. Buffalo should be worried about what's happening, because that group together with a young quarterback and money to spend. And I even think you look at the kid Elliott Wolf, who's doing the personnel moves there. I mean, if you see him, he looks like a kid who should be tutoring your daughter in math, but very bright and a lot of smart personnel moves. I like what they're doing.
I don't know if you saw the papers. They did fire the coach, so I do think Buffalo is concerned, Jeff.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you mentioned it was the papers.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what papers are you talking about?
I'm old school.
Yeah.
How about it? The Pats team to beat? Not going to go there. If you're not going there on the Broncos, I don't think you're going to go there on the Pats yet, are you, Sam?
No, but I do like. I mean, they have the most important position solved, quarterback, and they have the second most important position solved, head coach. And I think that combination is going to make the Patriots competitive. The Patriots they're tough to grade this year when you play three teams that finish 500 or better, but that doesn't mean you're bad, because you beat up on the bad teams and you didn't just squeak by them like the Broncos did. You killed the bad teams you play. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. There was a play that really stood out to me on what day did the Patriots play? They played the Sunday game against the Texans. If you notice, after the Patriots scored their fourth down touchdown, which give Mike Vrabel credit for going forward on fourth down, on the extra point, they're cutting to commercial and Vrabel's going nuts and he's holding up three fingers. And so I rewound it because I thought, is he arguing the alignment on the extra point? And sure enough, when you rewind it, the Texans only have three guys on one side of the ball, which is against the rules on the extra point. That's the attention to detail he's paying attention to live in game. I saw him earlier this year against New Orleans.
He does have a headset and guys up in the booth that are also, I'm sure, counting. But he is instructing people to be aware of.
Yeah, he's so in tune with what's going on in the game. And I just think that's a major edge. And one of the reasons he's so in tune with what's going on is he's not coaching the defense and he's not coordinating the offense. So I think that combination with Vrabel and May, yes, they're going to be good for a while. Even if I'm not going to pick them to be the number 1 or 2 seed next year, but they're going to be good.
And I put McDaniel in there too, as well, as being he's not going anywhere. To have him with Drake May, Josh McDaniels is a huge thing for them.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and I am with you. Mike Vrabel is, to me, I do like having an offensive guy running the show and everything, but Mike Vrabel is the ultimate CEO. And to Jeff's point, he does have a guy who's tried it twice and sucked as head coach, so he's probably going to be real happy to just sit there and be an OC for a while. I don't know when McDaniel's going to get another shot, so if that's all figured out and Drake May's happy with the OC, then they have kind of their Batman and Robin up there on the coaching side, and they're going to be hell on wheels for a long time. I do. Vrabel's unbelievable. Vrabel was the guy, he games the game like Bill Belichick did. He was the one who found, the little loophole in the rule where he could basically burn 2 minutes by getting penalty. Like, there is no part of the game that he has not, figured out what is the edge for his team. And he's great. And I'm going to tell you what, he's fun to talk to too. Like, we had him sit down at the American Century Championships in Tahoe. And like, I would love to tell you that Mike Vrabel's a jackass and root against this guy. Awesome guy to talk to. I mean, you're like, dude, let's go get some beers. And not afraid to push some chips around at the high dollar table at the blackjack. I did see that as well. He ain't afraid of throwing some of the what were the yellows, I think, out there, stacks of yellows on the blackjack table. So a little confidence there in him as well. How about what's going on in Buffalo right now? Pegula sticks his foot in his mouth, and then Mike McDaniel now interviewing with the Buffalo Bills. Seemed like he was a done deal to the Chargers. Maybe we'll just make this the Pegula Mike McDaniel Charger part of the equation here. What do you make of and is where Mike McDaniel lands one of the real trouble spots, whether it's with the Chargers as their OC or with the Bills teamed up with Josh Allen? Is that going to be one of the real thorns in the Chiefs' sides moving forward, Jeff?
It is a curious thing. One, I can't imagine him wearing those joggers in Buffalo in December, so he'd have to change his whole wardrobe out. But yeah, he's been coaching against the Bills for a long time, so I'm sure there's interest there. But as far as the Bills in general, I mean, if you're a fan of that team and you watch what happened this week with your owner and your GM and your former head coach, you have to be seriously concerned about where this is going to go moving forward, because we have an opportunity to be around owners and see how they are behind the scenes. But when you see that press conference and see what this guy's thought process was and the things he was saying, like, are they really going to make – he might have made that job a lot harder for a good head coach to take just with a 45-minute press conference.
Yeah.
Because now – yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
But I'm just saying, Brandon being where he's at and the power and the owner maybe firing a coach based off what he saw in the locker room and then blaming it on a bad call, even though your team had 5 turnovers. It was just – I think that Brian Daboll is the only one that makes sense to me now, because he's a Buffalo guy. He's been in that franchise. He knows Josh Allen, but I can't think anybody else goes in there. That's you have to go win the championship. You just can't get the AFC Championship game with the division title. Nothing less than a Super Bowl is going to suffice.
It's Tony Dungy going to the Colts. It's John Gruden going to the Bucks. I mean, you are coming in, and the only thing that will satisfy the masses is a championship. And Pegula, I said this on the radio yesterday. I had a buddy who used to be in the meetings, he's one of the support guys that was in the meetings of NFL owners. And I said, well, what's it like? He goes, yeah, it would blow your mind. He goes, it is a room of 32 men that have never been told no in their life. And when Terry Pegula sits up there and does that, that is a guy that he's never had. The people around him will tell him, you look great, sir. Great suit. The emperor is not wearing clothes. We ain't telling him. And you saw the way he did that. No one has ever told him, dude, don't be an ass. Right? He's never heard those words. And I think you see where it can be really tough behind the scenes. Most owners are smart enough to keep that attitude behind the scenes. There's a few that show their ass. Terry Pegula was the one who did it this time. And I think I'd love to see Mike McDaniel and Terry Pegula together. Wouldn't that be great? See that marriage happen right there with Josh Allen crying in the corner?
What there was, I think the sentiment whenever the Bills job opened up was, oh, John Harbaugh made a decision too soon, because wouldn't that be a great fit? Then you watch that press conference, and if you're John Harbaugh, you're like, nuh-uh, that's not the job. That's not the job I wanted. I mean, he was willing to throw Sean McDermott under the bus to such a degree. It's like, why did you keep this guy for 9 years?
Yes.
If he was this bad. And by the way, there's of course, and we exchange this in our group text, but there's a clip of Bean talking about the fact that he's glad Keon Coleman didn't run a good 40 time because he wants them. And so this guy's willing to go to such a degree of really dishonesty to protect his GM, to where if I was the head coach, I'd be like, I don't want to be the third wheel in that relationship. Mike McDaniel might make sense because he can't get another head coaching job in this cycle. That's why he's agreed, if he doesn't get the Bills job, basically to become the Chargers OC, it sounds like. And I think that's what the type of guy you're going to have to talk about, which Daboll fits into that too. No one else is interviewing Daboll for the head coaching position right now.
To your point about if you didn't like him so much, why'd you keep him around for as long as you did? The press conference was so bad. It's one of those things where when you just hear awful, awful, awful all the time, it starts to drown out some things that in the past somebody else would have said that you would have jumped on immediately. You become numb to, because it's just stupidity all the time. He opened with,
we're talking about the Bills ownership.
Well, I'm just talking about people in general.
Okay.
And with Pegula, he opened with, I made the decision to fire him off on our game in Denver. That was the opener. Was one game. Was what made me come to this conclusion. We don't even talk about that. If he'd been sane the rest of the time, we would zero in and be like, one game, that was it. That's what brought you to this point. But there was so much other crap afterwards that just got left in the weeds. The guy did say that it was just this game that brought it.
As opposed to the Ravens, just oppose that to the Ravens situations where the owner was asked if the kicker doesn't miss the kick in Pittsburgh, is John Harbaugh still the coach? And he said, for one more week.
Yeah. Yes.
And so the decision had been made, although I guess he's also assuming they would have lost in the playoffs. He didn't say 2 more weeks.
No, he did. He just said the 1 more week. Good point. I like that. Let's touch on the Ravens real quick. Jesse Minter, head coach there. They're going defense. Jeff, you like this, or is this We thought they might go the other direction. Let's bring in an offensive guy. Let's make sure Lamar's happy. And I think with it was the comment that Lamar has a voice, but he doesn't have any power, right? Like, so, okay, what do you make of this situation?
Oh, look, I think that, one, Baltimore's a defensive team. That town is built on blue-collar, get-after-it defense. And for all the things that Lamar Jackson has done, they've been really frustrated about how that defense has played over the last couple of years and the leads they've blown and the Zach Orr not being able to get it done. And they look across the country and they see Mike McDonald leading the best team in football right now, giving Seattle a chance to win a championship. And they know we can't let somebody else who's been in our building like that get away. And so I'm not crazy about let's stay with the Harbaugh family tree and keep going back to it. I imagine Anthony Weaver, who was a DC in Miami, who played there and was on that staff when McDonald left, was probably a heavy candidate for that as well. But I like Jesse Minter a lot. Obviously I went to Michigan and watched him there. His dad was a longtime college coach at Cincinnati. He's a smart young guy who's done well with the Chargers. He'll have success there. It was a smart move, and he'll get the right people in to deal with Lamar. Lamar's not as easy for an offensive coach to take on as a Mahomes or a Josh Allen. I think he's a very unique bird to deal with.
Yeah. What do you think, Sam? Better or worse for the Chiefs with this?
To me, like so much of now, what happens with the Ravens is going to be out their OC because you hired a defensive head coach. And, we talked on Tuesday about the fact that I didn't think the Chiefs OC position was all that coveted because everyone knows that Andy Reid is the offensive coordinator. And hiring Eric Bieniemy just reinforces the fact that Andy Reid is the decision maker in the offensive room. Well, now the OC spot, I agree with Jeff. It's going to take someone with a certain kind of thought process because their offense needs to be run differently than the traditional quarterback position. But that should be a coveted job right now for that OC. But you've got to get that right because I think it was very clear that, Lamar and the OC for the last couple of years have drifted. And so you've got to get that relationship right. And to me, that's what becomes key now in Baltimore.
Yeah. I think, listen, they've had 3 coaches in the history of the franchise. I mean, I think Biscotti, we've seen the difference of owners, right? One owner who gets it and one that doesn't. He gets it. I would tend to lean towards he got it right on this one. That's because he usually does. And there's stability in that franchise, which makes you think that he probably knows what he's looking for.
He picked Harbaugh when nobody was talking about Harbaugh.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Special teams coach. Yeah.
I think he had 1 year as a DB coach.
Yeah.
It was his last position. He just switched over to DB coach for 1 year. But I mean,
he was not
a hot name. No, he was not a hot name, and they liked what they heard. Still want to give you our predictions for what's going to happen in these conference championship games. Plus, we'll review the reasons the Chiefs missed the playoffs and how many of those boxes have been checked by Eric Bieniemy. Has he solved some of those problems? We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Let's talk about the reasons the Chiefs were out. We came up with 15 of them. We did a little draft where we kept throwing down reasons, most important as to why the Chiefs were out. We're going to go through each one quickly, and we're going to talk about whether or not Eric Bieniemy or any other move, frankly, by the Kansas City Chiefs have solved these problems. Number 1, Jeff Chadiha led us off. Stars didn't play like stars. Solved?
No. I mean, he might help Mahomes play at a better level, but I think Mahomes is more about the supporting cast. And Travis Kelce may not be here, and Chris Jones is aging. And so I think Starr's not playing like Starr is more about just the reality of aging.
Might help non-stars play better.
Yeah, well, I actually think that's one of the ones I would give to EB, because I think EB does not care if you're a star or not. Like, he will chew your ass whether you're Travis Kelce or whether you're Noah Gray. Like, he doesn't care about your clout. And so I think that's actually one of the primary reasons that you think about EB is Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. I mean, he got into a fight with Travis Kelce on the sideline like 4 years ago.
But again, did that equal better play? Did that solve the issue? That's I'd have to go back and remember what
I think it helps when there's no preferential treatment in the room.
Yeah, I think it's going to help. I think when the receivers come out and can't get their feet in bounds and crap like that, I think Eric Bieniemy is going to be on. I think Xavier Worthy's world got a lot harder with Eric Bieniemy there. But I think your point is a valid one. Sam, you had collapse in the fourth quarter frequently solved?
No, because I think, and I wrote about this today at the Star, I think the primary reason they collapsed in the fourth quarter was because of the predictability element. And I don't think Eric Bieniemy solves the predictability of the offense and big moments of games. I think it's the reason they weren't great in the fourth quarter. So, no, I think you bring in Eric Bieniemy for reasons, but that's not something he's going to solve.
I had Rice got himself suspended for 6 games, being one of the problems that they had to, basically be two different offenses, with him, training camp without him, then with him, and of course not having his talents early on where they got off to a really slow start. Question on this would be, does Eric Bieniemy, give life advice to young players to where they don't go rent Lamborghinis and drive 120 miles an hour? I don't know that anybody can do that off the field. So I don't think that one's checked. I think that's more about character. Stop drafting bad character. I don't think he's going to, get in the mind of either Brett Veach or Andy Reid, whoever green-lighted drafting Rashee Rice. I don't think Eric Bieniemy changes that part of the equation. Jeff, you had the offense got stale. Yeah. He better be part of the fix here, right?
Yeah, well, following what Sam said, I just feel like him being back isn't about the X's and O's. It's more about the intangible stuff. And so I love EB. Scheming is not his thing, as he's proven in other areas, other jobs. And so while he may say run the football more and do more things to balance it out offensively, I don't think we're going to get too far away from what we saw this past season in terms of the actual schematic designs.
Okay. Sam, offense, thinking they had enough at running back going into the season. Does Eric Bieniemy give them a better eye? Does he give them a clearer picture of what they do at that position?
Yes. I mean, this is probably the one on the list that hits home the most. I think he would have looked at that backfield and said, guys, this isn't enough.
Yeah. Void years, I talked about that they don't use them. That's one of the reasons they fall behind. He doesn't have anything to do with that. Lack of playmakers, Jeff. Is he going to help in that department?
I don't see it. Look, I mean, I think this is specifically talking about the running back room and the receivers. I put it up for the entire team, but I don't see where Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice are going to make great jumps in this. I think they're limited in talent, and we don't know who the running backs are going to be. That's more of a Brett Veach thing.
Okay. Terrible on third down, Sam.
I do think you could have some, but not a ton sway on that. And let me just quickly explain, because I think they'll run more on first and second down and be in better, more frequently in third and short, which they were great on third and short. So a little bit, I would say.
I think he's going to do a lot to help the lack of pass rush. I think that's where he's really going to come in. That was my next one. No, he doesn't do anything on the lack of pass rush. They're going to have to get that done in the draft.
We're realizing that all of your lists, Soren, was they don't even need an offensive coordinator.
I want to point out we did this as a draft, so I had some of these similar ones, and they came off the board before I could pick. Bad drafting, Jeff. Not. I mean, unless he can help identify a running back, or he pounds on the table for a running back earlier, does he help the draft?
I think he can help with that. If this Jeremiah Love discussion is really going to get down into draft time, and if that's really on the table for them versus somebody else he may prevent them from making a mistake in drafting a running back too high if he can find somebody else down the road that he thinks can have the same amount of success. And so I think he can have a huge role there.
And he just had a lot of success with a 6th-round rookie.
Exactly.
Yeah. Will he keep Patrick Mahomes from throwing the pick 6 at Jacksonville? That was the next one. You had Sam for 11.
No, I don't think that's an EB.
You don't think so?
Yeah, getting the space afterwards, though.
Yeah. I know you're thinking. Penalties. I'm going to say no because of the stats you gave in our last podcast, Sam. You pointed out that they were one of the more penalized offenses in football when he was the offensive coordinator before. So this idea that Jawan Taylor is going to line up, or I know he's not going to be there, but the idea that he would have lined up and never had any penalties, that wasn't the history of Eric Bieniemy before. So I don't think that really changes. The accountability, maybe there's an edge there, but I think that's going to have to come from someplace else. Jeff, you said facing the better coaching in the division.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. I would say being in the NFC North and dealing with that division, which is, I think, flush with great coaching, he's probably learned some things that could help this staff understand, hey, we're not all geniuses anymore. There's a lot of good talent out there. And I'll say when they played Philadelphia and beat them in the Super Bowl the first time, it was Bieniemy who found that little catch, that little flaw in the Eagles' defense that allowed them to get those 2 walk-in touchdown passes. So he might help with some of the smaller stuff. Maybe not the X's and O's part, but just seeing things and being honest with the other coaches.
By the way, and who was it who ran that play this past weekend? Like, it was the exact same play. It was a Saturday game.
No, the Bills, McCole Hardman.
Was that what it was?
That was the Tom and Jerry play. And there were some wrinkles to that. It wasn't exactly the same as his game when he touchdown against the 49ers, but there was
it was the same play that Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore had scored on against the Eagles. The start in motion and go back, and the corners all made the switch, and he's wide open on the side. It was. I don't even know if it was McCole Hardman. I can't remember which game it was. But
it was Sky Moore. It was Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. In the Eagles.
Well, no, that was who caught it for the Chiefs.
It was McCole Hardman in Buffalo.
Yeah, McCole Hardman caught it for
Denver.
Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next up, Sam, lack of big plays. Will Eric Bieniemy bring big plays to this offense?
I think some. Yeah, I think they'll have more in the running game. But is that going to mean more total because you're passing the ball fewer? I think the running game helps. Also, I think bring down the safeties, and therefore you could hit some bigger shots as well. So, yeah, I'm gonna say he can help with that.
I think being around Johnson, they pound the rock with the Bears this year. They certainly pounded it in Detroit. I think he's going to bring that. I think he's going to fight for the running game more with Andy Reid. I agree with you. I do think it actually does help because I think the better run will help open up things over the top. So I think it will help with that. Finally, I had the Kelsey Bobble INT he was going in for a touchdown. Bobbles up in the air, Eagles get it, they go the other way. And I added on to it the fact that he didn't even try to make an effort to tackle the guy who ended up with the interception. That will change.
I was going to say, that might change your answer on that then, right?
I think Eric Bieniemy, that's the whole accountable. I think if he comes off the field, he's going to get his ass busted. And he's in a film room. I mean, that's the kind of thing that if I were running the film, like the whole team, and definitely the whole team review, I just sit and keep rewinding it. I put a little laser pointer on Travis. I'd circle him, show him, let's back it up here. Here he is. There's the ball. Here you are. Back, forward, back, forward. I think that's the kind of thing Eric Bieniemy will do. I mean, I think it's not going to be tolerated for you to just quit on the play because, there's nothing worse than the guy who, instead of continuing to play, throws a fit to make sure that he's never made a mistake ever before in his life. That was the attitude that Travis Kelce had. Not let's win a football game. It was about Travis Kelce at that moment. And I don't think that will happen as much with Eric Bieniemy. So
there's a higher percentage on this list than I think I would have anticipated when we listed. Because these were the 15 biggest reasons we had said why the Chiefs weren't in the playoffs. And we put about him having the potential to have his fingerprints on a pretty high percentage of them.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'm surprised with how many we said yes. Predictions on the game. Let's wrap with that. We've got 2 games, Jeff. Denver, and I assume Denver's the early game because of the backup quarterback, or am I wrong? I don't know which order.
Denver's early game. Yeah.
Okay.
They flip flop every year. It's not about prime time.
Oh, they don't do it for TV. Well, they should.
They flip it every year. Yeah.
Got to figure that out. They change games in the middle of the freaking season, for God's sake. You'd think they'd set up the primetime game. What do you think? Broncos, Pats, who you got?
I'm going Broncos. I think being at home matters.
You've got to be kidding me. Really?
What's that?
You going Denver?
I'm going Denver.
Okay.
I know Tommy was saying, what's Sean Payton done with backup quarterbacks? He went 5-0 with Jameis Winston one year, and he went 3-1 with Taysom Hill. I promise you he will have a plan of action. He didn't just decide to keep Jarrett Stidham around for 3 years for nothing. And so he doesn't have to go out there and throw for 300 yards. But that defense, if what we've seen from Drake May in the last 2 games, anything, he's going to get hit and he's going to get the ball up. And when that happens in that stadium, that's a good thing for Denver. I like the Broncos defense to take over the game and win it.
Sam?
I'm going with the Patriots, but I don't think this is a slam dunk. I think last week's Patriots game is hard to put a ton of stock into because of the weather conditions in that game. I think that led to a lot of turnovers. I mean, Drake May's been the best quarterback in the league against pressure this year. The Broncos do have I don't think they have the best defense in the league the way that I think we would have thought going into the season. Who do you guys think is the best backup quarterback in the league? Probably like Mariota is probably up there. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett. I think this would be a really tough assignment for those two guys. Stidham hadn't thrown a pass all year.
Yeah.
And now you're playing in the AFC Championship game. It's not like you're playing against an elite defense with the Patriots, but AFC Championship game to be your first pass. Like, this is just – I don't think this is the grade for how valuable is Bo Nix, for example, just because of the difficulty of this assignment, not having thrown a pass all year. And it's such an unexpected thing. I guess I'm going with the safe pick with the Patriots, but that's where I'm going.
Pat's by double digits. I think you guys are whistling by the graveyard on thinking that Stidham's going to do anything. I think if I'm wrong, this grinds down into some kind of 13-10 game. Is that where you see it going, Jeff? Is like
I just saw C.J. Stroud look awful when they were in that game.
Yeah.
They were throwing the ball everywhere. If he just handed the ball off, they probably could have won that game every down. I just think –
So that's who the New England Patriots are. That one game, that's it. There's no – like, they didn't play down.
Charles got after him, too. I mean, he's got, like, what? I said 5 turnovers, been sacked 10 times. The ball's been on the ground. I think he's got 6 fumbles.
Well, he led the NFL in the regular season in fumbles, too. I think he had, like, 13 fumbles this year.
It's an issue.
He's been sacked 47 times. The Broncos had 70 sacks or 68 sacks, whatever it is, a team. This game will be decided by that.
Okay. Good stuff. I'm still on the Pats. I think it's solid. All right. NFC, who you got? Seahawks or Rams, Jeff?
I picked Rams Broncos at the start of the postseason. I will stick with it. I do not want to go against Seattle in that stadium with the way they're playing. But I also think that the Rams are up 30-14 in that game they lost in Week 16. Matthew Stafford threw for 457 yards against that defense. A lot of fluky things happened. I trust the Rams offense to go in there and get it done. I think Matthew Stafford, if he's the MVP, he proves it this week.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, but it's weird because the Rams should have won that game, and the Seahawks outplayed the Rams in the game the Rams won. I mean, the wrong team won both of the matchups. I love this match. These are the 2 best teams in the NFL, and they have been for the last half of the season. And it's actually kind of rare that you see them match up because oftentimes one team gets upset. I'm going with the Seahawks. I think those fluky things are things the Seahawks do well. I mean, they're number 1 in DVOA defense. They're number 1 in DVOA and special teams too. Like, that fluky stuff happens for a reason. Like, the Seahawks are a team that, Soren, I think since you don't believe in luck, you would say the Seahawks create their own luck in those situations. The tough part is Sam Darnold. I mean, they're still limiting the amount of throws he throws in practice. And like last week wasn't a great test for him because he didn't have to throw the ball at all. But I also think the reason he didn't have to throw the ball is the Seahawks are so good everywhere else.
Yeah. And
they're very well coached, and it's hard for me to pick against them. And I don't think the Rams are playing great right now.
The Seahawks are really well coached. And they're making believers out of me. The way it's not just that they beat the Niners. They're supposed to beat the Niners. The Niners are banged up, but they destroyed the Niners. And that's what you're supposed to do when you have a team that's down. And I do worry about that, though. A lot of times when you have that big win, you kind of come flat the next time. It's the NFC Championship game. That shouldn't be a case here. But I'm just going to take the better quarterback. I think the Rams will find a way to put it on Sam Darnold, and I don't think Sam Darnold – what I saw, he's playing better. But what I saw when he was in the Vikings uniform in the postseason, you pressure him, and I think the Rams will. I think he will melt, and I think that will be the difference in the game. Matt Stafford is why they will win, so I will take the Rams in this one. So we have 3 different Super Bowls. Denver Rams for Jeff, Pats Seahawks for Sam, and I've got Pats Rams. So we're different on what we think it's going to be here when it's all said and done. Listen, you can support the Red, Gold, and Bold by supporting our great sponsors, our friends at Gain Asphalt and Concrete. Fantastic folks, local Kansas City company. Since 1994, solving parking lot problems. If you own or manage a business, you have any problem with your parking lot, maybe you need a new one built. They've done the biggest ones, including the Liberty Memorial. Go look at that driveway and parking lot that's there. Gain Asphalt and Concrete did the work. You can find them online at GANAsphalt.com. Gain Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. If you've been hurt in an accident, whether it's work or a car, Northland Injury Laws, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers. They've been serving KC for more than 40 years. Voted KC's #1 accident lawyers. If you've been hurt in an accident, text HURT 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or just call 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.